parasite in the body of other nations. Once I really am in power, Hitler declared in 1922, my first and foremost task will be the annihilation of the Jews. In spite of rising support.
Hello amazing viewers and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be checking this content out. This is not the first time I've seen a similar content to this, but that story just wasn't really complete, so this seems to have a complete version of it. So I'm going to check this content out for the very first time to get the whole full picture of the whole story. If you're new here, please consider liking, subscribing, and the link to my Buy Me Coffee will be down as usual. Please check that out. That's one way for you to support me and this channel. Thank you for doing that, and let's get right into it.
In the first half of the 20th century, Germany was the preeminent intellectual and cultural capital of the world, and Jews were well-integrated citizens. The emergence of Nazism and its leader, Adolf Hitler, changed Europe and led to the greatest destruction that the Jewish people have ever faced, the Holocaust. During the 1920s and 1930s, despite continuing anti-Semitism and occasional pogroms, Jewish communities were a large component of European society. Cities, villages, and towns across Europe boasted significant Jewish populations. In Germany, Jews were leading academics, artists, and politicians, as well as teachers, doctors, farmers, and shopkeepers. During this time, a fringe political movement began gaining ground in Germany, promoting an extremely racist nationalism. They were called the National Socialist Workers' Party, or Nazis, and their leader was a man named Adolf Hitler. Anti-Semitism was foundational to their ideology. In his infamous book Mein Kampf, called the Jewish people a noxious bacillus that lives as a parasite in the body of other nations. Once I really am in power, Hitler declared in 1922, my first and foremost task will be the annihilation of the Jews. In spite of rising support...
It's so funny he said it, and they literally gave him power. He said it and they gave him power. They gave him power. It's not just at fault. The full nation is almost at fault for this, because he said it and they supported him in this movement. It wasn't alone. It didn't just march alone. He had army backing him up. So I just can't blame him alone. I just blame everybody for it, because I can't say they're brainwashed. He just use the hate in them to get his own agenda, but it's really bad. And it's so sad that I learned about it just a month ago. I didn't know about all this, the Holocaust. I didn't even know about it. I just learned about it the whole last month ago. And yeah, so I'm just trying to check this particular story to get a clearer picture, because the video I watched recently, I don't know if you have seen that on my channel, didn't go into so many details like this, but wow, this is also sad.
The Nazis initially failed to gain much ground in German parliament. It was not until after the economic collapse of 1929 that the party began to gain real political power. Social turmoil and strife led to a polarized and unstable political climate, and very quickly the Nazi party became the largest faction in the Reichstag. In January of 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. 1 month later, the Nazis claimed that a fire at the Reichstag was started by communists planning an insurrection, and used the fear of a communist takeover to abolish constitutional protections. Shortly thereafter, he was given the right to govern without the consent of Parliament, effectively establishing...
He forced himself into power. I'm so sorry for what I said earlier, but I didn't know that he did it in this kind of way. But this man is just so wicked, and he just wants to get what he wants by force, regardless, in the sense that he does everything in his power to get into that power. He's searching for that power, with all the means he has in his body. And the main reason to get that power is not just to make the people's life better, it's to annihilate some set of people. What? It just makes no sense.
A Nazi dictatorship in Germany. On September 15, 1935, the Nazis passed a series of notoriously racist laws called the Nuremberg Laws, which stripped Jews of their German citizenship, removed all of their political rights, and legally institutionalized their persecution. Many Jews attempted to flee the country, though their options of where to go were very limited. In September of 1939, Germany invaded Poland, officially beginning World War II. In the wake of German military expansion, a campaign of mass murder was carried out on the Jewish population. In towns and villages occupied by the German army, German military and police units, the most infamous being the SS, were instructed to carry out a war of annihilation on the Jews. Nazi soldiers, often with the help of local collaborators, rounded up Jewish men, women, children, and the elderly, took them to mass graves, and shot them to death, murdering roughly 2 million Jews within just a few years. To separate and control the Jewish population, the Nazis forced Jews into ghettos, small areas of cities and towns that were walled off from the rest of society. In 1941, it became...
Like segregation, like, took them to a particular place to stay. Like a kind of refugee camp. Wow. Like, where are all these ideas coming from? Like, the person thinking about all this, like, where is all these evil ideas coming from? Like, I just can't. I don't. A lot of words. Like, I don't even know what to say. But like, where are these ideas, these evil ideas coming from? Wow.
Became law that Jews were required to wear a Star of David to identify them at all times. Disease in the ghettos spread like wildfire, and starvation was rampant. In January of 1942, Nazi leadership and representatives from various government ministries met at what came to be known as the Wannsee Conference to coordinate their efforts toward the efficient annihilation of the Jewish people, known as the Final Solution. Deportations to the death camps became the Nazi regime's primary tactic of mass murder. Jews were sent in cattle cars to places like Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka, forced into chambers they were told were showers, and gassed to death. Some camps, such as the infamous Auschwitz-Birkenau complex, doubled as labor and death camps, where Jews were forced to work and were then sent to the gas chambers to be murdered. This assembly line of mass murder...
Imagine working without getting paid. At the end of the day, it gets, like, they just killed you, like, literally took your life from you. Like, you're working, you're not getting paid, and the payoff is being killed. Like, this is the most evil story I've ever heard in mankind. Like, this adds a part, this Holocaust is also terrible. Like, listening to it just gets more and more. Like, I've listened to some part of it, but like, getting into more details about it, like, I'm still in shock. Like, I'm still trying to figure out the person that had this evil mind. Like, the person responsible, like, the brain behind this whole evil mind. That person is the devil. Like, this is the devil himself. Like, how do you think of something so evil like this? Like, honestly, guys.
Continued for years, with thousands of Jews murdered every day. In the midst of this mass murder and destruction, despite impossible odds and relentless brutality, many Jews resisted. In the ghettos and camps, prisoners carried out acts of sabotage, smuggled weapons, and organized uprisings. Some fled to the forests, where they formed partisan units, bands of guerrilla fighters that often included both Jewish and non-Jewish fighters united against Nazism. These partisan units blew up trains, sabotaged Nazi operations, and fought head-to-head against German soldiers. Uprisings were waged in numerous ghettos, including in Krakow, Vilna, Bialystok, and Minsk. Spiritual resistance was also present throughout the ghettos and camps. Through observing holidays, studying Torah, upholding Jewish values, creating art, writing poetry, singing songs, spiritual resistors maintained dignity and upheld the strength of the human spirit even in the face of violent hatred, cruelty, and dehumanization. Throughout 1943 and 1944, the Nazis accelerated their genocidal plan. Ghettos were liquidated, and Jews from all corners of Nazi-occupied Europe were deported to death camps and murdered. Finally, in 1945, the Russian army reached and liberated Auschwitz. U.S. forces crossed the Rhine, and by April, Berlin was surrounded. Hitler committed suicide, and Germany unconditionally surrendered to the Allies.
Like, so far, the thing they have said so far that pissed me off the more is how he killed himself. Like, why do you have to commit suicide? Like, I feel that's an easy escape. Like, it took the easier route, because let me just assume he shot himself in his head, like, instant death. Like, it deserves more. Like, it needs to go through a lot of pains for the pain you have put millions of people into. So, like, it needs to die a very, very painful death. Like, sorry, I just have to be honest. Like, because like you caused so many pains and sorrow, and you just took the easier routes. Like, nah, like I'm not satisfied with this ending. Like, honestly, like I'm not satisfied with it. I wish it went through a very painful death, honestly, because he has done so many damage to the earth. Like, seriously, like took thousands of people's life and forced them into labor. Like, it caused a lot of things I cannot even say. Like, you watch the video.
By the end of the tragic war, roughly 6 million Jews and 5 million others, including Roma, Poles, homosexuals, the disabled, communists, and political dissidents, had been murdered by Nazis. Villages, cities, and towns throughout Europe that were once home to flourishing Jewish communities were now empty of them. Survivors of the concentration and death camps who tried to return home often found their property seized by their non-Jewish neighbors. With no recourse for reclaiming their homes or possessions, they became refugees, many ending up in displaced persons camps before moving on to form what have since become flourishing Jewish communities in the Americas and the land of Israel. The Holocaust was a brutal campaign of persecution and mass murder carried out by the Nazis and their collaborators in an effort to systematically...
Like, no offense, but I feel the people living in Germany at that time, like, they were all to be blamed. Like, seriously, most of them had blood on their hands, like, because I feel most of them supported the whole movement. Like, let me be brutally honest, I'm not saying people nowadays, but like people back in the days, like then, I feel most of them supported this whole movement, and like they were comfortable with it. They didn't see anything wrong with it. Like, honestly, like facts, honestly, because he had supporters. Like, he had supporters. So who are the supporters? Obviously the people. And the fact they took their property and not returning it back, so they will be supporter of his. And yeah, to see the way Israel formed, like they formed from chaos, and yeah, right now they're doing so fine and they're really, really strong. Like, with the alliance with the USA, make them even more stronger, guys.
Dramatically annihilate the entire European Jewish population. The scale of death and destruction is unfathomable. But Jewish communities have since worked tirelessly to care for survivors, name the lost, build and strengthen Jewish life around the world, and educate younger generations about the horrors of the Holocaust so that it never happens again.
Honestly, guys, this is so sad. Like, this is very, very sad. And I'm not encouraging hate, anger, or anything. Like, I'm not like trying to pass a negative kind of impression or negative kind of comments, but like I felt like suicide wasn't the best death for him. Like, he should have gone through a lot of pains, like stress, like through like torture, like literally leaving me alive. There's this stuff that Chinese people actually do, that they will tie you and they will grow bamboo stick through your spine. Like, that was the kind of death he deserved. He will not die, he'll just be there feeling the pain of the tree growing through his body. He will literally be alive, they'll be feeding him. That's the kind of pain he deserved for like the things they have done. I'm a Christian and I believe in hell, so either way, he's still going to get his punishment, even on this earth or on the afterlife. Because what he did actually in history, that's the most brutal thing I've ever heard. Like, what he did is the most brutal thing I've ever heard. And I get the whole logic behind the whole conflict going up right now. Like, everybody, the conflict going on, like how Israel has been fighting so hard to protect what they have. I get it. I'm not supporting violence or genocide, but like, I kind of see where they're coming from. Like for the very first time, I kind of understand where the point of view they're coming from. They don't want to be like cornered again, ever again. So yeah, I'm not supporting anything, but I'm just saying, like, I kind of see the view, their own perspective, very, very first time. Like, I kind of understand it for the very first time. I'm not supporting what they're doing, but I kind of see their perspective. Thank you guys for watching with me. If you're new here, please consider liking, subscribe to the channel, and the link to my Bambi coffee will be down. Please support me by using it. And I hope to see you guys at my next video. Stay safe and bye for now.